Obviously, you'll hope to reap the benefits of this down the road, but in the short term, how do you kind of balance keeping everybody's heads up with learning from this experience at the same time?
I think one of the things that helped is that I sort of set them up for the mindset before we even began the gauntlet. You know, hey, you guys, this is going to be rough. We know it's going to be rough. Let's just approach it with the attitude of let's find out about ourselves. I mean, the one thing I told them on the bus last night when we got back, I said, that was a great weekend because we learned everything we needed to learn about ourselves, and we found out what things need to be changed, what things are going to be okay, and what are still going to be the things we can hang our hat on, and we learned a tremendous amount. We were totally exposed. I mean, that's the word. We played 4 games in a row, starting with Colorado, and it became progressively more difficult. I honestly think, gosh, we play St. Louis on another time, another day. It's a different story. It happened to come when it came at the end of 3 really, really tough games that I just think took probably more out of us than we anticipated. And but St. Louis still had a 6'7" center who gave us fits. They still had a kid on the perimeter that could create her own shot and was a very effective scorer. And that wasn't a bad team. That was a pretty good team. And they just happened to be in a situation where they knew that they could compete against us. They had also been, beating their brains out for 2 games, and they just did a better job of showing up saying, okay, this one we want. And they just took it to us, and we didn't respond very well. So I'm not happy about the St. Louis game at all. But as far as Colorado, Michigan, Georgia Tech, we did pretty well. I mean, it just was what it was, and it was a very good learning experience.
Yeah. So if you were exposed on, some of the negatives, what positives, I guess, are you still looking at now that maybe you didn't know about your team 2 weeks ago that now you're like, okay, these areas are going to be okay?
We can make anybody turn the ball over. We can make Power 5 teams turn the ball over. We can make anybody turn the ball over. And we continue to excel in that area. And we are not turning the ball over a great deal ourselves. Our problem is we have to figure out how we're going to score with as small of a team as we are. And we're going to have to do some tweaking to what we're doing offensively because we have some weapons and we have some people that can score the ball, but we're not putting them in the best position to score it. And I have to make the changes to help them out because it's just too hard when you don't have post players. You got to figure out how to score when you're not going to get any scoring out of the post. The rebounding we knew would be a problem, and we've got to continue to just get on them about that. But again, I think if we can make some changes offensively, we can give ourselves a chance to at least get an offensive board. Like we're not getting offensive boards like we got them a year ago. And those were possessions that we added to our ability to turn people over and not turn the ball over ourselves that, gave us that buffer zone that we needed for our, the number of possessions we had to have to score the ball. So we got to work on that.
And what's going on with Caleb Pilson? Like, what is the injury and timeline and all?
She had a break in a finger on her left hand, her non-shooting hand. It's healing great. We hope to be able to have her by the games next week.
Oh, next week.
Yes, because they put a pin in it. It's healing up. It feels good. Like I say, it's not her shooting hand. So the nice thing about those types of injuries, when you can pin them, is they actually heal quicker. Because you don't have to lay down as much bone. So we hope to have her pretty soon. She's itching to go. She probably would have played this past weekend, but no, we weren't going to let her.
How's your team different with or without her?
She gives us an element of athleticism that we really needed. The size was the biggest thing. It was just everybody was so big. They were so big. We were giving up pounds and inches considerably at every single position. As I said, even against St. Louis, I mean, their 6'7" kid gave us fits. But the only team that was even close to our team in size was Belmont, and we didn't get to play them. That was about the only team size-wise we might have been able to match up with. But everybody else, they were all huge. Michigan I have tremendous respect for because that's one of the most competitive teams I've ever gone up against. They played their tails off. I mean, they didn't come in and cruise. They just came in and went after us, and we fought like heck to hang in there with them. They ended up winning the whole thing. They beat Baylor in the finals, and just because they're terrific competitors, I really admire how they compete. But they've also got a couple of fifth-year seniors in their lineup, and stuff like that. It's just we're still battling that too. We have role players that are trying to become stars, and we have 6 freshmen. So that's we'll get there, but we weren't there by this weekend.
Hi, Coach. In your last 4 games, what challenges were presented that you think your team might need to focus on moving forward into your next games?
We better rebound. we're just getting in a lot of trouble on the boards, and we have to grow defensively. We're not at the point that our team was defensively a year ago, so we have to continue to grow. But that's an experience thing. We're asking Madison Smith, who wasn't even in the rotation a year ago, is now starting for us. And she's doing a great job. She's doing a great job for the minimal amount of experience that she has. But all those little things that you learn about defense by being on the court and making mistakes and having to figure out how to correct them and everything, we have so many players that have not had those experiences. And that's where you miss, having 3 seniors in your lineup who played a ton of games.
Even though it was a rough weekend, they were all close games. How is your team mentally right now with that next game mentality? Are they coming into practice this week hungrier?
I think so. I think they will. I think they that was a hard stretch of games. It's one thing to play 3 games. It's another thing to play 3 games against teams that are just so big and so physical. And they were all very physical. So I think we're just physically a little worn down. And you've got finals coming up and, all those other things that take their toll too. But like I said, I think what's good is that it's nice to get exposed early so that you're not moseying along thinking, as I told them, when we were winning, we weren't all that great. And when we're losing, we're not all that bad. You have to remember that both are a little deceptive and you just have to stay the course.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Good. No, I'm not.
Good.
Who am I kidding?
Have you thought about maybe taking some kind of, pills to help your team grow a little bit?
I don't. In Alice in Wonderland, maybe.
Yeah.
I gotta find them.
But you get a little break. I believe you don't play again till Thursday. Is that right?
We play Sunday. We don't play
you
till
play
Sunday.
till Sunday, so you have the whole week off.
Yeah, it's a really good time. Good timing there.
Yeah. Was that scheduled intentionally, just with everything? Or?
We had actually tried to fit a game in on Thursday or Friday, just couldn't find anybody that could play us then, and now I'm thankful that we couldn't. We ended up having to squeeze 3 games into next week, so that's going to be somewhat of a challenge, particularly the week before finals. But still, the break came at a good time. They need to rest. Their bodies need to rest, and we need to get Kayla Pilsen back.
And I don't know if we're going to see you again before, but I know you play UCCS next week. You schedule them. Why? Is it to help them out or to kind of not to be disrespectful, but to kind of ease things up for you guys a little bit? Or?
Well, I think the main reason we schedule them is that they're close, and it's an easy game to make work because we can fit it in anywhere. It's one of those games we can kind of plug in and we can call their coaches and say, "Gosh, could you play us here? Could you play us here?" And they generally are able to just accommodate it because it's such an easy game, or an easy trip, I should say. So that's the main reason. I think it's nice for the fans to have the local school on the schedule, and I really like their head coach. I think he's a great guy, and I think it's just a healthy thing, sort of, for the community. And We're always going to probably play at least one. In this case, I think we have two. We had two D2s because Adams State, and they're pretty good, by the way. they're pretty good on the schedule. But we're always going to have at least one just because of where we're located. It's so hard to get people to come here and play us. It's remote, it's at altitude, and we happen to be in a part of the country that it's not like, when I was at Yale or I was at USC or something, and you got all kinds of schools within a stone's throw. So we have a very good conference in the RMAC, and we can pull some good games out of that conference.
Camry Heath, she seems like she's pretty fearless. Has she always been that way, or has she kind of developed and learned that, I guess? She's
always had a scorer's mentality. She had to learn a lot of the other elements of the game because, as quite often happens when you're coming from high school and you only had one job when the ball's in your hands, score. You didn't have to know how to pass it. You didn't have to, nobody knows how to play defense in high school. So all the other things had to come along for her before she could play significant minutes. She worked her way into the starting lineup last year, did a great job, and the kid can score. She's got the best jump shot in the conference. So that's going to keep her out there just like Haley Jones could rebound. So who cares about everything else, And
then I didn't, I don't know, I'm sure some other people in the room have, but you reached a milestone recently. What did that mean to you?
It meant I've been doing this a really long time. It's just nice to know that, it's in consideration of the kinds of challenges that I've enjoyed taking on. It's nice to reach any milestone.
With UTEP coming up, I mean, at least by RPI, they're like a Colorado State level team. How dangerous is that? Coming off this, where everybody's geared up for these Power 5 opponents, and now you come back and you play a team that's probably just as good as some of those, but doesn't have the panache with the name.
Right. Well, and I think that happens a lot. There's a lot of teams that are really, really good that aren't necessarily Power 5 teams, and UTEP's one of them. I think the one thing that we have going for us there is we played them last year. It was a bit of a contentious game. Went into double overtime, and so there's a certain amount of payback that's sitting in the back of our minds a little bit. So I think that'll help. It's not like it's just a game that's on the schedule. We had a rough one with them last year, and I think we're looking forward to it.
You think kind of the mentality of the St. Louis, playing that at the end of the stretch, will that be gone by the time you get to
I think
UTEP?
with the break, hopefully it will be. Yes, I probably worry more even about not more. I mean, they're both good. Utah Tech has gotten a couple transfers in, and they're so much better, than they were a year ago. And we've got them now at the end of a 3-game stretch. So there's no easy wins, but we're used to that. That's us. That's our life.